Hey guys, just had this '07 Tacoma dropped off. Going to be repairing this minor Jackknife trailer damage. You got this panel, a little bit of this molding. You can see it's rippled right here. And this had been repainted one time before, from what I can tell, so probably wouldn't have cracked the paint. There are some cracks in here, but that probably wouldn't have happened if that had been just original paint. Also, this fender had been replaced at some point, and this door had been blended, and so this is starting to fail. I got to pull this off. Went ahead and took the mast off earlier when I took the tail light off the back. Just going to sand through all this paint and take it back down to at least the factory, or the aftermarket base coat that's there. I think this is a replacement fender. I think I see some E-coat back through here where it's worn through. So I'm just going to strip it down. May end up having to go all the way through it and just epoxy coating the bare metal. But what I'm going to do first is get the fender flares off, so I can order any clips I need to get for those if I break any. I may have to take the hood air deflector off so I can paint this with the hood down. It's in the way a little bit on the end, right there. And pull the headlight out, most likely. For right now, we just focus on getting the moldings off and the antenna base. What I might have to do with this one, since all this is bolted into the bed rail here, I don't want to pull all this off and really can't do it by myself easily. What I might do is just leave this up and sand underneath the edge of this and under here really well and just mask this piece off. This is not the only issue with this truck, so it's not like it's got to be 100% flawless. It's in pretty good condition, but it is 11 years old now, and there's some other things on it that make me think he's not a perfectionist. So I'm gonna focus on getting these flares off and then see what I got underneath. I'm gonna have to just push this out with a ram, I think. Alright, it's at the point now where I just need to wash all the panels just to kind of see what I'm working with before I get into sanding on them. Got the antenna off and the grommet. I'm going to leave that in there, most likely, because I don't really have to pull this liner out, and I have to do that to get this out of there. If I just tape it, it'll be fine. Pull the headlight out. I had to go from underneath and get the bolt out of the bottom right there in that bracket, but it's not going to come out without the bumper coming off. I'm not doing all that, so I'm just going to tape this up right here, keep it off the fender. Just to protect it from the sander. I'm going to sand through all this paint. And when I go to paint the car, I'm probably just going to have to take this and stick it, tape it up to protect it, but stick it back behind the fender just so it doesn't fall over into the paint. That way I know it's secure, and just mask everything off and paint it like this and stick it back in there. I'm just going to leave it off enough. The only reason I need to pull this out was to be able to sand through this edge. Really, it's only failed down to about the pinstripe line. But I'm going to sand through all this and see how it feathers back. If it feathers in real nice down in here, I'll just stop here and prime down just the top half. At the back off here, I've pulled the liner back here because I've got to straighten this edge out. Pulled it back enough to do that. And it's still on a brace at the bottom there, so I'm going to leave that. I think that's still in the position it needs to be in. I'm going to reach in through here and I'm going to pull out on it, see if I can pop most of that back out. I'm going to work this crown down. And then after I do that, I'm going to go ahead and wash the panel so I can start the body work. But for now, I'm just going to see what I can pop out just by hand. And I may even be able to stick my 4-inch suction cup on this and pull it out if I can't get it out by hand. I'll need to clean that one spot so it'll stick. But essentially, I've taken off everything I need to take off. Pulling all this off just so that I can go make an order for all these clips. I think it's 6 of the orange and the rest of these, I think it's like 13 of the blue. I'm going to get a few extras. That way, in case I break one or for whatever, I'll have some more. Also got 2 of these broke off the inside of the flare here. Goes to the back of the flare. Alright, and there's one that's still attached. All the other ones are still fine, but there's 2 of these that actually had broken away when this happened. And I've got it marked because they look identical. I've got this one marked as towards the front, but I'll put one more or put that one here and one more back here, but I'll have to rebond it. Once I get done with everything else, I'll do that. I need to get everything in primer as soon as possible so it can sit, and then I'll probably sand this out since I need this shade primer anyway. I'll sand this out in 600 and I'll just blend or possibly even paint this whole panel. If my primer from here gets too far over this way, there's really no point in blending that. I'll probably just panel paint it. And up here I'm going to definitely have to panel paint this, but I told him that there's no reason to blend into the door for what he's paying for this. It's not paying for that anyway, so he's okay with just a butt match there. Also back here, he just wants the dent. I think somebody borrowed the truck, and this happened while they borrowed it. They jackknifed the trailer, so it really wasn't even his fault. So I guess they've probably paid him for it already. He's just trying to get it done. It's supposed to have been here 2 months ago, but he had an issue with a parasitic draw on the battery that I checked out for him. Then we finally got around to getting it here, since I already had some other work scheduled. But I'm gonna get this washed, pop out what I can here, and get it cleaned up and ready to start sanding on. All right, I've done the hammer and dolly work around this edge right here. Got this kink out, got it flat back in here, and then dollied this down a little bit. Just did some off dolly work. Had the dolly back behind here, and then hammered this down so that it rotated the metal instead of stretching. If you hit directly on it, you'll stretch it. I got that curve back flat this way. Knocked this out some right in here where you can see this mark went down the side. Knocked that out in there and then tap this down. And I've checked the molding, and I think I've got it just about there. Probably gonna leave it alone now. That's where it's gonna sit, and it's pretty tight fit. Tight as I'm gonna get it, I'm sure. So really all I need is some filler. This thing covers up most of all the damage except for just right in here. A little bit of that crown that I have to work, but I need some filler right there, and just a little right there, and just a hair right back there, just to get a depression out. I think that's gonna be it. There's a slight little wave here. I'm gonna go ahead and just fill that while I've got all this. If I can't work it out with my PDR tools, since I'm gonna have primer up here anyway, might as well fix that. All right, everything's pulled back with 80 grit. Gonna put some filler here, and just a little bit right there. You can see there's a little bit of a line there. Whatever went down the side here. He told me it was a trailer, but it must have caught here mostly, and then part of the frame rail of the trailer, or the rail that goes around the side for the side of the trailer. The rail must have come along this edge. I'm going to mask this edge off. There's actually a step stamped into this. This flare overlaps it. I'm not sure why they had to do that, but maybe just to stiffen it up. But I'm going to tape this edge off so I don't get any filler in here. And there's some areas here that I worked out, but none of this really needs to be repaired. I'm just going to sand through it and make sure I get it coated with paint, like right in here. There's no reason to actually finish that off with body filler. It's going to get covered up. So I'm going to tape this off and go ahead and get some filler put on. I was able to work this out just with the PDR tool there. I wasn't able to get any leverage on it, but I was able to just take the tip in there and just work the dent out enough that I'll be able to just block sand the clear flat. And then I'll put some primer over that, and I won't have to put any filler in it. Because if I fill it, I really need to go down to the metal right there. That's just going to put a low spot right there. I'll have to bring the primer way back this way. So I'm going to go ahead and get you set up on the tripod and watch the filler go on. And once I get the filler on this, get it blocked out and ready for epoxy in the bare metal, then I'll go ahead and sand the fender out, because it doesn't need any filler at all. There's really nothing wrong with it. Just going to need some epoxy on the bare metal areas, and I'll do that when I get ready to do this. All right, this is Evercoat Quantum 1. I'm going to try to get by with one coat. One coat's all I should need. Hopefully you can see this. to this portion here, so I'm having to try to get the filler to lay out flat. I think that's going to be good. Should be all the filler I need. Let this set up for a while, probably overnight, and I'll get the body work done here, and I'll move on to the fender and then get the epoxy ready to go. Alright, all the body work's done on the bed. I had to add a little bit more filler here just to build it up slightly to get it flat. It blocked it out. It wasn't completely flat. I could feel some ripples in the metal. Everything's in 180 now, all these areas. I just got to come through with the 400 grit, take it out a little further, kind of refine some of this edge. I'm about 4 or 5 inches out this way with 400. I'm going to shoot primer over to here. I'll end up panel painting this. I still need to go through and sand some more areas, like right in here. I just kind of cut through a little bit where I had some paint breaks. Just need to completely feather all that out and run my 400 down towards the bottom of the bed panel. Then mask it off with primer. I still need to sand the front. It's pretty light now. I can't run the sander, but I'm just going to take this down. I ran the pinstripe off with the eraser wheel, and it's taking the paint off. So I'm going to have to sand at least past here. Probably just going to go all the way down to behind the molding and somewhere in here, taking the paint down. Probably going to end up going to the sealer or the e-coat. If whoever did it sealed it, I don't know if they did or not. Doesn't really look like they did, but we'll go through that at least halfway down. Down in here looks okay, but really all this gets covered. So if I go down to this area where the holes are and somewhere in here across to the door, that should be good. I think it's bonded down there well enough. I'm going to get this prepped and also the fender and mask it off, get some epoxy on this bare metal and get some primer on it. Alright, the body work's done. Got it masked off for primer. I'm going to start with epoxy just over the bare metal in these areas. Also these places where the paint was cracked. All down in here, just shoot it over the bare metal. Got the top of the fender sanded through. Started to feather down in here, so I just stopped. I'm going to put epoxy over just the bare metal area. Let that set up for about an hour, and I can put the other primer on. If I can't get it done tonight, I'll just have to come back tomorrow. It's good to put it on 24 hours, but I'll probably still scuff it with a scuff pad if I have to do that. Getting the epoxy ready now. Okay, I can't get the primer put on until I get the fender flare sanded out. I'll show you that in just a minute. I don't know if I showed any of this repair earlier. I think I showed you getting ready to put this on. This is 5887 plastic repair. I've got to get this sanded, blocked out, and get it ready for primer so that when I put the primer on this, I can add some here so I don't have to do primer twice. So I'm going to go ahead and work on this while the epoxy's setting up. And if I can get this ready to go right here, By that time I should be able to put the primer on everything. It'll take me a good 30 minutes probably to sand this out and block it, and then prep all around this area for primer and tape this rubber off, keep the paint off of it. But I'm gonna work on this, and if I can get it all done tonight, I will. Well, I forgot not to use my primer gun with that stuff. I got a little bit of a run in the epoxy there, a little bit right there, more of a sag than anything. I turned the paint flow down on it, and I still get a little bit of sagging going on. I don't like putting it in my top coat gun because I don't want to use that for primer if possible, but I guess I'm going to have to start doing that. This is fine. This turned out great. This back here, you could prime over that, but I don't want it to shrink back and leave some marks in the paint. So I'm going to let that sit overnight, and I'll come back and just wet sand those little sags out tomorrow. That'll give me plenty of time to get this ready too, and I'll just have to scuff pad the rest of it, put the primer on top. Alright, everything's ready for paint. Just got it masked off a few minutes ago. Got this area on the A-pillar here primed. Had a problem when I pulled the tape off here. It pulled the spot repair that was here from when the fender was replaced. I actually lifted the paint right in here in a few places, so I just went ahead and sanded all that through. Put a little bit of just 1K primer over that last night. Ran over with a scuff pad. What I'm going to do is just do a panel of paint here, and I'll put some color up over the rest of the primer. And I've got it prepped back into here where I can put color over that, and then a little bit of clear. Here's a fender flare. It's ready to go. Got the rubber masked off. I didn't bother with fine line tape on this just because it had already been painted once and had some paint all the way around it on that edge. So I just masked it back just about to where the last shop did it, since I can't get all the paint off of it. Here's the bed panel. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap the paint around right in here where I had to put some epoxy. But up in here, I just need to paint the outside since I still have the liner in there. I'm gonna go ahead and get base coat mixed up. I'm not gonna do any sealer on this, so this one will go pretty quickly. Get some base coat mix, get this stuff wiped down again. Then we'll put at least 2 coats, see how it looks, and put a 3rd drop coat. And I'll do the same thing to the flare that I did to the bed back there so it all matches just right. Here's your quick look before I pull the plastic. I got a couple of really tiny fish eyes this time. I think it might just be the humidity. It was up at 100 probably. I'm gonna have to come back through and just buff that spot right there. You can see it's just foggy. Gonna hand buff it, or I may even run the foam pad over it just a little bit. Up where it is, you really can't even notice it. And it was actually that spot repair that was there was pretty horrible. So it's not like you'd even notice it, but I'm gonna go ahead and try to do it right as much as I can. I had to throw that in there because I pulled the paint off, even though it's really not my fault. I can't charge him for it. Didn't take but a few more minutes anyway. Bodywork turned out pretty nice here. I'm gonna get this plastic off in a few hours and let it sit here for a little while and start reassembly. Alright, I'm gonna work off this foggy spot here with the buffer. I'm gonna try the 3-inch random DA here to get that dull spot out. If this won't get it, I'll go get the regular buffer, and I'll have to run the heel of the buffer going backwards that way so you don't peel the paint. But I'm gonna try this. This should do it. I'll be back when I got it done for the final shot. Here's a quick look. Customer's coming to pick it up in a couple hours. I had to make this pinstripe out of 2 other colors that don't normally come together. And here's the spot repair. It's really seamless now, you can't even see it. There's the bed panel and the flare that it did. Could be happy with that.